Hello, and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. So, today's topic is mindset, and we're actually going to talk about the pros and cons of a training partner. Now, I put this under mindset because I think it more so impacts your mental state during workouts and even like just kind of like your emotional health, mental health, relational health, more than this actually affects results. Now, does a good training partner positively influence results? Absolutely. Does a bad training partner negatively impact results? Oh, hell yes. But I wanted to look at kind of more the mental side of this and kind of let's just talk through it. So, this was a requested topic, and I think it is interesting because over the years, like I've been lifting weights for 19 years, and I've had some times where I've had a training partner for quite a few like years at a time. And then I've had times where I didn't have a training partner for quite a few years at a time. So I've gotten to experience both and both to quite a degree. So it's not like I just did one random workout with a training partner, you know. So it's been quite a combination. So I figured what I'd do is kind of talk about the pros and cons of my experiences. We'll talk about the pros and cons of kind of general, like what you should look for in a training partner, and then my suggestion of whether or not you should actually have a training partner. Okay, so let's go through a couple. I have three people I wanted to kind of go through who've been my training partners in the past and kind of just talk about the pros and cons of them. So the first one is actually my mom. So my mom and I used to train together quite a bit. So it sounds a little crazy because I am like twice her size in height and weight, and twice her strength, but yet we were still training partners. So there were modifications we made to where, like she at the time she was working on bodybuilding and so was I whenever we were training together. So we might want to do say a leg workout. So we might have a combination where we're doing say I'm doing like leg extensions and I want to work up a couple like warm up sets, getting mind muscle connection, getting good contractions, and then I'm going to work up to a top set where I do maybe a double drop. So I might do 10 reps, drop some weight, 10 reps, drop some weight, 10 reps. And during each of those drops, I might do some rest pause. I might have some forced reps where the person actually helps you finish the rep. So the contraction, but you still control the eccentric. So I might be doing that on leg extensions, but my mom would be on the leg curl. And it made sense because given our height differences, so I'm 6 foot tall, my mom's 5 foot tall. If we had to, between every single set, rearrange like the length of the shin guard, the depth of the backrest, that can kind of get annoying to have to reset everything all the time. So we would typically work out where I would do kind of my thing on one exercise, she would do her thing on one exercise. So during my breaks, she would help me. During her breaks, she'd help me, and during my breaks, I'd help her. But we were there for each other. We motivated each other. There was accountability, so it kind of helped a lot. So my mom, one of the things I loved about working out with my mom was that she worked out to the absolute freaking best she could. She held nothing back to the point where she would even get sick and throw up sometimes from workouts because she was training so damn hard. So when you have somebody who's willing to push as hard as you are, that is awesome. That's a super benefit because sometimes you show up and you're not quite in the full mood yourself, but they happen to be. So they can kind of pick you up a little bit. And then sometimes they come in, a little less than their best, and you can pick them up a bit. So the best training partners, you'll find that there's most often just good days. You're both fired up. You're both ready to go. Then every once in a while, you got to pick them up, and every once in a while, they have to pick you up. If that relationship is lopsided, which we'll talk about here in a second, that is not a good training partner. So if you are wanting to train with them for best results, get rid of them. If you're training with them because they're a spouse or like a best friend, well, shit, that kind of sucks. But the best training partners you'll find is a balance between that stuff, not where it's one-sided. The other thing I liked about my mom was she would just do whatever she was told to do in the exercises. We would talk every now and then about like why we were doing a certain focus, but all of our talking was on the exercise and whatever we needed to do or say to be productive and move to the next thing. So she wasn't too much of trying to be a student where she was trying to pick my brain all the damn time, and I felt like I was more of a trainer than I was training. So I don't like whenever I have to educate my training partner the whole time because it just kind of takes away from my ability to work out, and you might as well just be doing a training session. So a couple questions here and there are fine, but I don't like teaching people while I'm training. And then also, anything we talked about was mostly related to whatever we were doing. So we wouldn't have some, side conversation that would get us off track or out of focus, where our rest periods were wrongly timed, or like you'd have a hard time focusing back in on the exercise because you were just talking about how so and so did this and that thing and all this gossip bullshit that shouldn't even be involved in a workout anyhow. So I love training with my mom because she trained her best and she stayed focused. And my mom was always on time. So that's awesome. So she knew if she wasn't on time, then I wasn't waiting for her. And it wasn't even like an acceptable option. So now I am sometimes late here and there, but very, very, very rarely. And my mom knew that if for us to work out together, there was no you show up late. You just show up on time. It's not an option. Or how many times can you be late and it's okay, or any of this kind of bullshit. You're not late. That's the way it works. You're not late. So she did awesome. One of my other friends I got to train with was Tommy. So I love training with Tommy because he, again, worked to the absolute best of his ability. He was also a trainer, so he got to come up with like really cool, fun ideas. So we would often do workouts where he would pick an exercise, I'd pick an exercise. He'd pick an exercise, I'd pick an exercise. And we knew enough how to pick the right next thing, like category-wise, based on what we'd already been doing. But within that category, we each had our own creativity. So it made it really fun. And he was also enthusiastic. He loved training. So he was always fired up, ready to go. Kind of like, not only did he work hard, he was always excited to work hard. Okay? So he wasn't like, I'm just going to ho-hum it. I'm going to work hard, but I'm going to be quiet. He'd come in fired up, ready to go, try to think of the most crazy shit that we could beat ourselves up with. And when we did talk, we talked about positive ideas, positive concepts. We'd talk about business. We'd talk about training. Like everything that we talked about was always positive, and it was always kept to the right rest periods, kept to the right focus. If somebody was getting ready to get into an exercise, the other person would shut up, give them a couple seconds of silence so they can get their mind right. It was just an unspoken bond. We both understood that was the best way to do it. So training with Tommy was freaking awesome. Another person I've trained with before was Dallas. So Dallas was awesome because he absolutely murdered himself at every single thing he did, which was freaking awesome because it forced me to have to be my absolute best at every exercise. Also, no matter what came on in life, we'd walk through the door and he'd be like, "Hey, how are you? I'm good. How are you? I'm good." And then we'd start working out. And then towards the end of the workout, you'd talk and he'd be like, "Oh, dude, I haven't eaten for like 9 hours. I'm so hungry." Or like, "I only got like 2 hours of sleep last night." But we would never let outside life ruin our workouts. We would only ever bring them up at the very end and just kind of laugh it off of the fact that we were able to still have awesome workouts, even with all that craziness kind of going on in our lives. So those are 3 examples of awesome, wonderful, amazing training partners I've had over the years. I've had others, so sorry for the others that I've left out. But those were 3 that I wanted to share because I wanted to share the fact that one of the training partners was half my size, half my strength. But that didn't matter. Another one was like Tommy, where he was super excited all the time, and we got to share ideas and create fun things together. The other thing I liked about sharing with Dallas was that he never let anything get in the way of our workouts. No outside life bullshit got in the way of our workouts. So they each had really cool, kind of unique aspects about them that made them stand out from other training partners I've had. And it makes them stand out from what's common, unfortunately, when you try to get a training partner. So, unfortunately, what most commonly happens, is the people are late. And for the love of God, that is the worst mistake you could possibly make as a training partner. Is if we say we're starting at 6, we're starting at 6. You're not walking through the door at 6. We're freaking starting at 6. So having people that understand that when you set a time, not only are you supposed to be on time, you're supposed to be ready on time. There's an enormous difference between those two, okay? So if we're supposed to train, especially for me, where I've had a history of injuries and stuff, I typically come in earlier than my training partner, make sure I get my warm-ups and my movement preparation in. I'll get stretches, get therapies. So if we say 6, I'm freaking warmed up and I'm ready at 6. So if that person just walks in the door at 6, they still have to put their shoes on. They still have to organize their bag. They still have to bullshit and say hi to a couple people. that person's being an asshole, and I don't want anything to do with that person as being a training partner because we made a commitment. If I were to do that to them, they would be angry, but yet that sometimes people don't recognize that they're doing it to you. So that's what's most common. The most common problem with having a training partner is they're late. So that's going to hold you back in your training, throw you off your rhythm. It's going to limit how much you can get done in your workout because maybe you only had an hour and they're 5 minutes late. By the time they're really ready to start, you're already 10 minutes into the session. You're going to miss 10 minutes worth of extra work you could have gotten. So maybe at the very end, you have to fudge through the rest of the workout just because you were running late rather than being able to do the best quality. The other thing that happens all the time is the person comes in and they're in a shit mood. So they're bitching and whining, complaining about life, and, oh, I'm so tired. Oh, I didn't get anything to eat today. It's like, okay, well, those are poor life choices on your end. Shut the hell up and let's go to work. So having people who understood that is very rare, but it's absolutely necessary for a good training partner. So you have to have somebody who shows up and is ready on time. Somebody who shows up with a good attitude. Okay? Then also the other thing is people talk too damn much. So they come in, they're just wanting to, like they know they're supposed to work out, but in between the sets they're, bullshitting about something that happened at work or, this person did this to them and da-da-da-da-da and all that kind of bullshit gossipy behavior. So I don't have the quote in front of me, but there is a quote that talks about, it's in reference to what people talk about. So there are people who talk about other people. Then there are people who talk about ideas and concepts and things that move you forward in life. So if you have somebody who just gossips and talks about other people and bitches and whines all the time, first of all, don't be that person yourself. Second of all, if you have that person, freaking get rid of them. Okay? So I've talked about this before, and I maybe need to make a podcast about it for other trainers, but I have fired clients before. So too often people think of this like personal trainer client relationship as the personal trainer begging the client for money and like, oh, will you please work with me? Sometimes I don't want to work with the client. So I've actually fired clients. So because they'll come in with poor attitudes, I don't really want to be around them for an hour. They're a miserable human being for an hour and it ruins the rest of my day. And I have somebody who could come in and fill that spot and be a more positive person. They're going to do their nutrition right. They're going to do their training right. They're going to have a better attitude. They're going to do the stuff in between our sessions correct. So I've fired clients because it's ridiculous. They'll come in with a bullshit attitude. They're not ready to work. Like everything we do is kind of like pulling teeth. They're not really excited. They're not trying their best at anything. So I fire clients. If you have a training partner like that, fire your training partner. Go find someone else. You don't owe anybody your happiness. Okay? That extends well past training partners. That's in all of life. You don't owe anyone your happiness. You don't have to give up your happiness for anyone else. Okay? They're in charge of their own happiness. So if somebody comes in all the time and they're taken away from your happiness, your excitement, your motivation, your progress, your results, fire that person. Yeah, they might be mad, but who gives a shit? That's their problem. And I mean that in the sense that they're only mad because it's their character flaw. You're not doing a wrong thing, which is why someone would be mad. They're mad because they're getting called out on their bullshit. So, I'm getting really grumpy here, I guess. But that's kind of what typically happens. Is people show up late, they come in with poor attitudes, they talk too much, they're not hyper-focused on what they're doing, and when they're actually in the exercise, they're just kind of throwing the weight around rather than actually paying attention to the quality of what they're doing. So they'll go to, if the goal is 10 reps, they'll go to 10, but they really could have done 12, 13, or 14 reps. They're not actually trying their best. That is what is unfortunately most common. So, I can understand whenever people see that as the most common option of why they wouldn't want a training partner. And that is actually one of the reasons why I would say you shouldn't have a training partner. Is if the only options you have are that, don't take that option. Train on your own. Okay? Training partners should help you improve your own accountability. You both show up on time all the time, and you're motivated to show up on time because you know the other person's going to show up on time. The best training partners bring up your attitude because they come in ready to work every time. Yeah, they might have had a shit day, but they don't let it get in the way. They don't even voice it. They just come in ready to work. Okay? And the work they do is a high quality. So, a good training partner should be somebody who improves your accountability and you improve theirs. A good training partner should be somebody who improves your attitude and you should improve theirs. A good training partner is somebody who improves your work quality and you should improve theirs. The benefit of a training partner should be mutual. You should be giving just as much benefit to their life and their training as what you're expecting them to give to yours. Okay? It's a two-way street. Okay? So, if your training partner is not helping your accountability, they're messing up your schedule, they're late all the time, fire them. If your training partner's coming in with a poor attitude and it's draining on you or you feel like you have to be a counselor all the time, fire them. If your training partner's coming in and they're just kind of going through the motion, they're not really trying their best, and it doesn't promote you to give your best, fire them. Okay? So, the 3 rules that I think you should have to be a good training partner, and you should look for this in your own self. So you should be this for someone else. And you should only have a training partner, accept someone as a training partner, who can give this back to you as well. Okay? There's more than 3, but my top 3 is number 1 is be ready on time. Okay? Don't show up on time. If you say we're going to work out at 5, don't show up at 5. Be freaking ready to go at 5. If you can't be ready to go by 5, tell them 5:15. Say, hey, due to my work schedule, I'm probably not going to be able to roll in the door till 5, so, don't expect me to be ready to go at 5. Give me about, 10 minutes or so. That way they know the reality of what's expected, okay? So be honest and work together on when is the actual expected time to be ready and get moving. So that's the first component, okay? The second thing is a positive, a productive attitude. So I have my notes here that it doesn't have to be positive. You don't have to be happy all the time, okay? We all have shit days. We all have bad days. We all have days we just don't want to do something, okay? Maybe we showed up to the gym and we really want to be there that day. That happens, okay? But don't let your mood influence the other person's training effects and quality. So you still have to have a productive attitude. So if somebody says, how was your day? And your day was awful, just say, you can even, if you want to be honest, you can just say, oh man, it was an awful day, but I'm freaking ready. Let's just crush this shit and let me work through my issues. That's productive, okay? You don't have to lie. You don't have to try to be fake all the time. But if you're like, oh, it was an awful day, man, you should have heard my boss, da 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 da. The other person doesn't really give a shit. They were just asking how your day was to be nice, okay? Don't get into that kind of stuff before the workout starts. Do the workout first, and if there's time at the end, then you can whine and complain about life. Okay? But that's the order. Workout first, whine later. Okay? Third thing is works to the best of their ability. So you need to be able to give the best you possibly can every day. And that's what you should expect from your training partner. That's going to fluctuate from time to time, but it should be the best that they have available. Now, that includes the fact that you've actually eaten so you can have a good workout. You're hydrated so you can have a good workout. You've had sleep so you can have a good workout. So if you're coming in all the time and you're like, well, I'm trying my best, but I'm so tired all the time. Well, screw you. Go get better sleep. Figure out how to live your life in a better way. Don't let your lack of sleep ruin your training partner's workout. Okay? If you're underfed and you're getting lightheaded and you don't feel good when you work out, that's your fault. Eat some damn food before you work out. So you can't say, I'm trying my best, but you're not. So just because you try your best 1 hour of the day in that workout doesn't excuse you from being a lazy ass for the other 23 hours of the day. So if you want a great training partner, you first have to be a great training partner. You need to be ready on time. You need to have a productive attitude, and you need to work to the absolute best of your ability and always making sure that you're coming in at your best. That's the goal. So, should you get a training partner? This is a rough one. And the reason why I have a hard time answering this is because I've seen that training partners more often than not hold back one or other. Usually when you get a partner, okay, training partner, and gosh, do I hope this isn't true for marriages, but when you get a training partner, typically there's going to be one person who puts in a little bit more, who cares a little more, okay? Who would be able to achieve a little more if that training other person wasn't holding them back. Now, if you're the person on the lower end of the two, having a training partner is going to be great for you because it's going to bring up all the things that you're weak at. If you're weak at accountability, having a good training partner is going to help your accountability. If you are weak at an attitude, always having a good attitude, if that's not your thing, but your training partner always does, then they're going to bring you up, okay? And if you typically just kind of go through the motions and you try, but, you're not, like, you can improve or, like, maybe having them around helps you push a little harder, okay? That person's going to bring you up. But why in the world would you accept the fact that you are going to be the person who brings them down? So if you're on the lower of the two, and having a training partner benefits you, but you being their training partner doesn't benefit them, don't do that to them. So if you feel that you have weaknesses, okay, well, I'm never really on time, stop. Fix that. Why would you let your weakness ruin their life? Hold them back from their health and happiness? Don't let your weaknesses bring them down. Training partners need to be complementary. That's the only way they work long-term, beneficial for both people. If you're not giving an equal amount into your training partner, then you should step away and not have them as a training partner and let them go flourish and be the best they can be. Now, if you're the top dog and you're always bringing up that other person, okay, how long are you going to do that for? How long are you going to sacrifice your health and happiness? How long are you going to sacrifice your dreams, your goals, your results for them? What do you owe them? Why would you have to not be your best in order to bring them up to not even their best, really? You're probably just bringing them up to a little bit better than what their mediocre behaviors are. Don't do that to yourself. Don't waste your potential. Okay? So it's hard for me to recommend that someone have a training partner on a regular basis, as in for every workout, because you're either going to be the person that brings the other one down, or you're going to be the person that carries the other one. So, now that I've said a very depressing aspect, I do think from time to time having a training partner is helpful. I think it can be great for stages. So say you're going to a certain type of contest prep or big goal that you're taking on. Having a training partner during that time can be very helpful. Okay, it can help you push to be your best. You can use a little bit of their strength to help you grow in your strength. That's fine if they know that's happening. That's cool. So training partners in spurts like that at tough times is great. Also, having a training partner every now and then just kind of check in to see how well you're doing. Maybe you think you're training hard, but all of a sudden you get this training partner come in for a leg day and they kick your ass. Then all of a sudden you're like, wow, I got to step up. I could really be better. So having training partners in short bursts or spurts or, maybe certain workouts of the week, that's always a good thing. I think it has a ton of benefit, ton of help. But I think you still have to have some on your own workouts. I think that's necessary so that way you don't bring the other person down, and it also forces you to be strong on your own. So you don't always have to use the other person as a crutch. That other person does not deserve to be treated as a crutch. So my answer is that it should be a mix. So having training partners for spurts of time is great. Okay, that's a good thing. Having training partners for, certain sessions a week. So maybe you guys can't always meet on Mondays, but you can always make Tuesdays and Thursdays work. Well, then that's awesome. Crush it, have fun on Tuesday, Thursdays, but then still be self-accountable on Mondays. Okay? So I think there's benefit to training partners for sure. Do I think somebody should always train on their own? No, I think that's a negative too, because you get lost on where your weaknesses start to grow. So all of a sudden you get too lazy and you don't take long enough rest period. You take too long of rest periods, and all of a sudden somebody comes in and you're like, holy shit, I'm so out of breath I can barely keep up with them. You needed that experience of someone else to kind of check you, see where you were at. Okay? So I think training all the time on your own is a negative. I think training all the time with a training partner is a negative. So I think you have to mix it in. If you're the strongest of the two, okay, you probably need to have a training partner less often, but you still need to have them every now and then for check-ins. If you're the weakest of the two, you need to have a training partner more often, but you still need to have your own workouts so you can build your own accountability. Okay? So that would be my answer. This is felt like I did not do a very fun podcast as much as me just being ranty and mad and maybe overly serious about this. But like I said, why I made this a mindset podcast is because having a training partner, it has way more to do with the mental, emotional, relational, like those type of aspects of your health, more than just the physical. Okay? It's not like you're just picking an exercise, like should I do chest press or overhead press? That's clear cut. One thing good, one thing bad. Maybe there's some arguments here and there, but that's purely just physical. A training partner influences way more than just the physical aspect of your workouts. So a good training partner can make you do great, awesome, wonderful, amazing workouts. A bad training partner can pull you down. Okay? So that's what I think. Think to yourself is don't ever allow yourself to be the weaker of the two. If you have a training partner and you feel like you are flawed in some action, you're always the one coming in with a negative behavior. You're always the one coming in later. You're always the one, they always just seem to try harder than you do. Fix that shit. Don't accept that. Work on getting better. You don't have to be better tomorrow. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to make progress towards it. Don't let them be the crutch for you. Okay? Good training partners are mutually beneficial. Overwhelmingly mutually beneficial. So when I trained with my mom, it improved my training. When I trained with Tommy, it improved my training. When I trained with Dallas, it improved my training. And I would hope, and I'm willing to bet, that if you were to ask them, they would say training with me improved their training as well. So that's the relationship you want. Cool? Okay. So should you have a training partner? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. You got to still be self-accountable, but bringing in a training partner from time to time can be fun. It can be a good kind of self-check moment. So I think having a blend of the two is best. So when you can find somebody who matches well with you and your times match for workouts, awesome. Go ahead and crush those workouts, have fun. But if there are some workouts every now and then where it doesn't match schedule-wise, you still need to show up by yourself and still be self-accountable and get everything in that you should get in. Okay? Cool. So hopefully this helped. Hopefully it gave you some food for thought, not only for what you should expect from a partner, but what you need to give to a partner. Okay? If you like this information, you can find more from us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, Brutal Iron Gym. Also, if you like the podcast, please share it with family and friends. The more people we help, the happier the world will be. And if you have any questions, feedback, or suggestions, we'd love to hear from you. So this podcast is for you, so we want to know what you want to learn about. And you can tell us at our email at brutalirongym@gmail.com. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.